Welcome back to Dragon Talk. We are live from GaryCon in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. We are on Saturday, so it's day 3 here at GaryCon, and there is tons of gaming happening all around us. We are here in the streaming room where Shelly Mazanoble streamed last night.
We have a live studio audience here today.
It's amazing. I know, right?
I'm going to get used to the
clapping.
applause when we go back to the office. There is no applause.
There's no applause. We got to get all those folks in the background
we have to
clapping
record
as much
that
as we
and
can.
just keep playing it.
I like that. And thank you to Bill Allen for starting that round of applause.
Make us a laugh track, please.
And for, of course, doing all the wonderful video for all of this. But we have the distinct pleasure of having Darlene here, an artist of much renown throughout all of the history of TSR. Yeah, we'd love to just start off by talking about how did you enter this crazy gaming world?
Well, I was working at graphics. I think it was called Design Graphics or something in Lake Geneva.
Uh-huh.
And Mike Carr walks in, and he wants to do the Gen Con, the next Gen Con, what do you call that? Exhibitor
Program.
Right. And decides, and I'm doing that for him. And then when he comes in, he asks me on a date.
Oh.
And then
He did mention that yesterday, that you guys had
No.
dated for a while.
Oh, he did.
Did he mention that?
Yeah,
I
he
don't
did.
remember
Yeah,
that.
right as we were kind of closing, I'm like, oh, right, I can't wait to ask her about that, but I'm glad you mentioned it first.
Yeah, and he took me to, after we dated a while, he said, well, this is what I do, and he took me up.
He slowly introduced you to this world.
Yeah, and he said, why don't you bring your portfolio? And then I did, and on that visit, I met Dave Sutherland and Tim Kask.
Oh, that's his quilt behind you.
That's right. That's right. And that's how it started.
Interesting. Did you have what kind of a background did you have? Were you a painter or an illustrator or a graphic designer before that?
I had just graduated from Beloit College, and my major was art.
Mm-hmm.
And it was right after I graduated, and then...
So you were ready to jump in.
Well...
What was your specialty in school? As far as what form
Well,
of
I
art?
did everything but drawing, inking, that type of thing.
Interesting. My older sister majored in painting at the University of Wisconsin. Not Wisconsin, sorry. We're in Wisconsin right now. University of Connecticut. And I always loved that she got her transcripts, and they only put the first 4 letters of your major on the transcript, and it said major, pain. Because she was majoring in painting. I was like,
Oh,
okay.
a major pain.
She was a
Major
major pain.
pain.
Yeah, well, that was true, but
Well, they called it studio art
interesting.
at that point. So, yeah, I was green, just didn't know anything, and just sort of stumbled into it. But what they liked most about what I could do is I did lettering and calligraphy. I went to London to learn, and one of the workshops, so I learned from the scribe to Queen Elizabeth.
What?
No shit.
Wow.
That's
is
cool.
So you have to understand the technology of printing back then.
Mm-hmm.
There was only 5 fonts that were generally commercially available, and you had to dress up the page somehow. And when Tim Kask learned that I could do calligraphy and lettering and illustration, he glommed onto me. And so I did most of the headings and the titles and did that stuff to dress up his pages. And so at the beginning, I was doing the mastheads and and behind the scenes, stationary signs.
Oh, did you create the letterhead with the wizard logo on the top? That all the memos had this memorandum.
Yeah, I did the Wizard's Head logo.
Wow, you did that logo?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
That's cool.
Even our studio audience was impressed by that.
and everyone at home, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, the story behind the logo is that
Yeah.
they wanted me to give them like 6 different designs and they couldn't decide between 2 of them. One of them had a really compact with the TSR, and then I had another one with the head, and then, the other information behind it. And they couldn't decide between the 2. Well, combine. We like the little wizard said, why don't you take this one and put it over here? And that's how it ended up. So I extended the wrap around and stuck the head there.
Nice.
Oh my goodness.
So that's how it came about.
So what
by
sort of-
committee.
Yeah.
What sort of direction did you have going into that? Did they just say, make us a logo, or we want a logo, and then a
They
wizard would
wanted
probably...
ones to choose from, and
Okay.
that's how logo
But you
design
s-
generally is.
So but that was it? Like you just said, you know what, I'm going with the wizard. I feel like the wizard.
No,
is-"
they said.
They wanted the wizard, okay.
Oh yeah, it was by committee. They couldn't decide.
But before you had even gotten to the stage of giving them the ones to choose from,
Right.
you knew that was the direction, the wizard?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow. So I'm curious, because you don't, I came to Wizards of the Coast 20 years ago without a gaming background. I had never played D&D. I had never played Magic the Gathering. I was hired to work on Magic the Gathering, and it was a whole new world for me. So you kind of came into this world of gaming not with a gaming background.
No,
You had your artistic background.
right.
So what did you think about this night? Mike Carr is a very nice man, as we learned yesterday. But what did you think about what this company TSR was doing? And was it a steep leaning curve for you? Did you just kind of get it? Did the Lake Geneva community just love and support TSR, or what was it like? How did you understand what it was this company was doing? Because it's kind of a hard thing to explain, and it had never been done before.
I got an opportunity to draw things I like drawing, and that's all I thought about.
Good.
You want a unicorn? Try.
Okay.
A unicorn.
I'll do it.
I was really more into the artistic part of it, and so they needed something or other, and I would do something or other. I didn't really think of the gaming part of it. I was thinking of the art.
The art part.
And so in my terms, positive, negative space, the relationships of shapes, that type of thing, and making it aesthetically pleasing and able to communicate.
Yes.
So I owe my car a debt of gratitude. Now, he was in Fight in the Skies, so most of my friends were his gaming buddies. And he had 2 games that he did. One, Fight in the Skies Fits, and the other one was he had all these, what was it called? It was something where cars go all around.
Oh, Car Wars?
No, Le Mans or...
Oh, okay. Yeah, the car racing game, yeah.
Yeah. And so I would just hang around for that and look. And I did a lot of airplane pictures for him in particular.
Was that hard to research, or did you
Well,
have
I
a lot of
did
photos to
learn
go
the
off of?
differences between a Fokker D7 and all of that stuff.
I love that.
So, but that's the only mechanical stuff I did. And I always use that stippling. And the stippling comes in for, again, the technology. You couldn't do grayscale. It was, and you had to be black and white.
Right.
And to approximate grayscale, you can put the dots, and if they're closer together, it's going to be darker, and you go further apart.
Oh,
So I did
interesting.
stippling a lot to get that feel.
Yeah. And then one of the things that you're probably most known for is the map that you did.
Yep.
For Greyhawk.
And everyone owes my car a debt of gratitude for that too. I'll explain.
Okay.
When the job came in and said, "Do you want to do this?" I knew it was going to be a big job, and I knew I would have to quit my job. Now, at that point, I was working as a printer at Lakeland Hospital.
Oh.
And I'd have to quit that job
To do the map?
To
to
do
do
the
the
map.
map.
Because it was that big of a
Because
task.
it was that, I had to, I couldn't do it after work. I had to concentrate. And it was 24/7 for 3 months straight.
Oh, wow.
And Mike said, I tell you what, I'll front you 1 month of rent to keep you buoyant if you need to.
Wow.
But
Oh, because you wouldn't get paid until you turned it in? Is that what the situation was?
no, it was that if you want to be a freelance artist, I will help you out so you don't worry about that.
I see.
Yeah, quitting
for
your
1
day
month.
job is scary.
Yeah, it was real scary. So and and back then I supplemented my income by teaching calligraphy at Gateway Technical Institute.
Oh, cool.
So there was little things around that you would freelance in.
Yeah.
And once Tim Kask got a hold of me, I got to do all the dragon stuff.
Oh, cool. For the magazine? Oh, nice.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And they also had Gen Con stuff and had calendars. And then Frank Mentzer gave me work through the polyhedron of RPGA. So I'm
Oh,
very
right.
grateful to all of them.
Yeah, they kept you very busy.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. Yeah.
So what was it like working on this map? I can't even imagine
Oh my God.
what the process is.
Well, I had something to go by, right? And they supplied me with really big panels. I mean, as big as the map. So it was a one-to-one relationship, and already had the hexes on there.
Okay.
So what I had to do was I took pencil, and I put in what I thought was the major areas. I had them proof it if I got it right. As counting hexes over and hexes down. This is where this goes. That type of
Oh,
thing.
my
Oh,
gosh.
wow. So, yeah, that was the only way you were able to pinpoint,
Yeah,
make sure that it was
because
correct.
once
Oh,
I
gosh.
worked on the surface, I could not make a mistake.
Right.
There was no, so I had inked, so I gave it to them, they proofed it, gave it back to me, and that's the map. So if anything got wrong, not my fault.
CYA, right. Were you doing it in pencils and then
In pencils, and then, I would erase it,
right,
ink it, and then erase it.
that's
After the
fascinating.
ink dried.
right. And so again,
Oh, yeah.
pre-computers for any of this.
Oh my, no.
Yeah.
And then to add the color, so it was a big paste up, so the bottom was black.
Uh-huh.
And so all the lettering, all of the little mountains and all the little trees were done directly on the hex grid.
Wow.
And then you take an acetate sheet, put it over there, and then they had these Pantone colors that you pull up
Mm.
and then position, get really, flat. And then take an X-Acto knife and cut out all the little areas.
Whoa.
And then take another acetate sheet, put it on top of that, the next color, and then try to get it exactly.
Who did that part? Did you do that?
I did that.
Oh my god.
Oh my God.
I see now 24/7.
And then in the other color, put another acetate sheet on.
Oh,
Yes.
wow. And
Yeah,
that was the
well-
only way to get full color?
Yeah, a flat color.
A flat color.
So where they abut, thankfully, there was a thick enough line that to have a little give.
Wow.
So when they printed it out, they'd have to print the color first and then the black last.
Oh my gosh.
So there would be no white showing.
Interesting.
Yeah. Who has that original map? I wonder where that is.
I don't know. Somebody's got it.
Yeah.
Or it
Or it
got
got
thrown away,
thrown
which is
out.
horrible
Who
to
knows?
think about, right? All of
Yeah.
that work.
All that.
Well, at least it's printed and people get to enjoy it, and that's the Greyhawk map that was shipped with the folio, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, and I did the folio. I did the one that has all of the illumination on it.
Mm.
I designed and did all that special
Oh wow.
stuff.
What was that like?
I
How did you
loved
get the
it.
illumination on there?
I loved it. I'm a medieval artist. I tapped into the medieval man inside me or something.
You held your crystals and you were able to commune with this medieval man.
Well, no, actually, one day I was working and I was doing calligraphy, and when I looked at my hand, it looked like an old man's hand, and I thought, might have been a past life for all I know.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I kind of, it was easy for me.
Yeah.
So I had to have been informed somehow. So I guess I tapped through space and time.
Yeah.
That's where the
That makes it
talent
even more special.
comes in too. Is that what you did when you were in school? Did you do medieval type things, or is this is kind of open this up for you?
No, this was just mine.
Interesting.
No, it did the normal school curriculum. They didn't have calligraphy, no.
No. Map making for fantasy worlds.
But I loved medieval maps. I loved cartography, and basically the map reflects my love.
Yeah.
And I think that's the energy people are getting from it,
Yeah,
because
and-
I put my love and my heart and all of that into it. And I think that energy comes out.
Yeah.
I think it does too. I think a lot of people
Did
love.
you do other maps?
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I did maps. Everyone remembers that one,
Right.
but I did maps a lot, most for the dragon. The Search of the Emperor's Treasure, Knights of Camelot. Those are the two I remember off the top of my head.
And were those geographical topographical maps, or were those dungeon maps? And
Let's see. They didn't have hexes on them, if that's what you mean.
no, I mean, were they interiors or were they exteriors?
For the dragon, it was in the magazine.
Oh, right.
And
But I mean,
then-
were they mountains and trees, or was it like the
Inside a dungeon.
Inside of a dungeon, like you
Oh,
know,
no.
fighting,
No, it was mountains and trees.
Okay.
But for In Search of the Emperor's Treasure, I got to do tiny little castles and
Ooh.
little things. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Did you have any? I mean, I know that they provide direction for the maps, but did they also allow you some creative freedom to say, like, I think there might be a lake next to these tiny little castles?
I
or-
really don't remember. All I remember when I looked at it is that they had to go from this point to this point, and there was a line and a letter. And the terrain was XYZ, and I just had to be sure to hit their points.
Yeah.
And then anything else I would maybe elaborate on.
That's really map making is such a unique, specialized talent.
Yeah, the map making, I try to incorporate the lettering in with the map so that it's one unit, so that the whole thing is a painting.
Oh, nice.
Now, if you're doing maps and the lettering is an afterthought, it looks like it.
I've definitely seen that on some fantasy maps where it looks like it's literally taped on,
Right. But-
and in some ways it
Yeah.
probably was.
Yeah.
You know, to be like, oh, we need to label this here. You know, cut that out in an X-Acto knife and put that on there so it can get
Yeah,
recreated.
so I made a point of making it part of it, and make the mountains and the lettering of the mountains look like the mountains, but readable.
Yes.
And I tried very hard to make sure that each hex, when I was doing the Greyhawk map, could not be argued about. It was definitely one or, this. So I didn't do like something half and half, so there'd be an argument. I thought, no arguments.
See, well, you really put a lot of thought into this.
I did.
Yes.
I did.
It's probably the baseline for future map makers. You probably have
Now,
literally set
one
the bar there.
trivia I do remember was that Gary put the name of a city, Alyssa, and that was named for Elise,
Who is Elise?
his daughter,
Ah,
Elise
Oh.
Gygax.
that's
So,
very cute.
little things like that.
Yeah. Any more little Easter eggs like that? And do you remember from any of the other maps?
No.
It's a good one.
It is a good one. Yeah. I love hearing like that in some ways you had to pioneer this type of thing for creating materials for a game that didn't exist, beforehand, and people
Who knew?
Yeah, exactly. Or and many of them didn't have graphic design experience or knew how to do it. They could just tell you how to what they maybe imagined.
Well, they told me the objective.
Yeah.
And this is what we want to do. Here's something to go by, and go for it. There was no art direction in that way.
Yeah. Were you ever there at TSR when an art director was hired to be a little bit more of that mind?
Well, Dave Sutherland was, quote unquote, the art director, and would give me work or not.
Oh, it was more of
More of a
less of
hiring thing.
a director and more of a signer.
Well, more like we want you to do this kind of thing, and you've got this space to fill.
Right. They knew the column area. And that was
Yeah.
about
We've
it.
got 1 column by 3 inches, and we want you to do a wizard with a snake staff or something like that. Well, all right.
We can make that work. Yeah. What was it like? Did you have any insight into the layout and how the books were put out
I
there?
wasn't part when I was doing illustration. Was not a part of it.
Did you guys work together with them in hand, or was it just more of a handoff and
Handoff.
Handoff.
Like a usual freelance type thing.
Got it. Yeah, because that's also fascinating to me too. Is like how can humans parse text, especially with a game like this that is very text heavy, and how to make it readable for us. And obviously, 5th edition has tried to do as much as we can in creating tables and things like that to let the eye go to it. But in hearing you talk, it reminds me a lot of speaking with our art director, creative art director, Shauna
Yeah, I
Narciso.
was thinking of Shauna.
Similarly, she didn't have a background in gaming until she came into to Wizards, and she brings a lot of just an outside view into how people get this information.
Well,
and
the
get that out there.
traditional thing about graphics is that you you try to communicate as well as possible what the author meant,
Yeah.
and the graphic design has to be invisible.
Yeah.
If the graphic design is here I am, well, you're not helping the author.
Yeah, it's like a score in a movie where, there's definitely sometimes you want to know what the score is there, but you almost don't ever want to think,
Right.
oh, this is why I'm feeling
You've
the
got
way
to
I'm feeling.
serve the needs of the page.
Yeah.
And so when I design, I always make sure that the picture is right next to the text instead of 3 pages over or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, how many Gary Cons have you attended? Are you a regular at these shows?
The last 5 years, I think.
good.
Yeah.
And what's it like for you coming back to these shows? Seeing everybody from
It
the
was
past
hard.
days. Was it?
Yeah. Not with these people. It was it's a reunion.
Yeah.
Just like going back to your old high school 40 years later in some
yeah,
ways.
Yeah, something, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It can be, they can have the,
I'm
there's-
sorry?
There's positive and negative things that can occur there. Yeah.
Well, I would venture to say that my TSR years were not all that happy.
Mm.
And it's not because of Mike or anything like that. It's because I was a woman in a man's world. And I purposely put my name, Darlene, out there so people knew I was a woman.
Oh, good.
And when I went to the Geneva Lake Art Association, they told you, if you're a woman painter, do not put your first name. Do not let people know you're a woman. You won't sell any paintings. Put your initials on or just your last name. That was the prevalent wisdom.
Interesting.
But me, I'm going, oh, yeah? Well,
Good for you.
Yeah.
So people, looking at the dragon definitely knew a woman did that. And so they glommed on to me somehow as the female. I'm like, well, okay. So my fans had no problem. But there were some people who didn't like females.
Just in general.
Yeah.
In general. But I was so green, I didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
So whatever they would pronounce, I would say, oh, okay, you're right. I am not good enough for you.
Ugh.
Is that you would get that kind of feedback from these trolls out there?
No, not from these trolls, from specific troll that was in control.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's no good.
Made sure I didn't get work.
Really?
Well, we here at in Wizards and where we are now, we're making as many inroads as we can to kind of get rid of that as much as possible.
Well, that's why I'm doing the coloring book to.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
Oh,
too.
okay.
I would love. Please talk about the coloring book that you have actually at the show.
Well, all right. You're asking me about how many Gary Cons I've been to.
Yeah.
Well, at one of the Gary Cons, I had one of my unicorn tablets out, and this little girl from another exhibitor, she comes up and she gives me a gift of a unicorn head, and it's really brightly colored, and I'm going, aw, thank you so much. And so I thought, well, I might as well give her mine, so that's fine. And then I started looking around, and I noticed that there was nothing for children. Nothing. I thought, oh, no. And I started thinking about that.
Yeah.
I thought, what could I do? Oh, a coloring book. So the first year, I kind of more or less scooped out all of the stuff that I had, and then, stuff to color, and I put out that coloring book. And that was very popular. And I took that coloring book, went to a women's empowerment seminar in Colorado, and then saw my mermaid and all that. Oh, I want to be a mermaid. Oh, my God. And I thought, holy moly, look at that. Fantasy for girls, empowerment for women is the same market.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah. I think you did, probably.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know before that point. So my next coloring book was called Color Me Powerful.
Ooh.
So I took archetypal feminine images, and then I put in a meditation. So the meditation was, to sit down, look at the one you want to color, meditate with it a while, and then color it. And the idea being you're coloring yourself powerful, that the attributes of what you're coloring you will have.
Yeah.
And then this year, I thought, okay, now what we are empowered, we're going to go places. So it's Color Me Free.
Oh, nice.
And so I have all of these women and fairies and just going places on rhinoceroses,
I love it.
on stingrays,
Oh, nice.
on skateboard and motorcycles.
Yeah.
And just,
I love
have
that.
some of us are going very fast.
Yeah.
That's cool.
You have to
So
get this for your girls.
that's-
I know.
just-
I'm just going to say, that sounds right up their alley.
So I do want to encourage younger artists and younger girls and older girls
Yeah.
to get
I
in
like
touch.
that she just gestured towards you when she said
And like super old ladies. That's true.
No, it's children of all ages.
Yeah.
Yes, we're all young at heart.
We could all use some
To
empowerment.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
To delight the child's heart within you.
Yeah.
So what would you what advice would you give to an aspiring artist, a young woman starting out in this world?
Practice. If somebody tells you you're weak at something, find out.
Right.
So I felt really, when I was told I wasn't good enough, that I didn't know this and I didn't know that, I went and took classes until I did know. Not that I really needed them. I
Right.
now know that it was a line.
But at the time, you thought it was like, oh, I can develop this and get
Yeah, I
better.
could develop it. So I thought, all right, I'll cover my bases. I went back to learned anatomy, learned photography. I started taking pictures of myself. The cable releases are really good. And, dress up so that I had something to go by. I went to oil painting workshops,
Wow.
and I went all over the country doing different calligraphy workshops with people, so I would hone that skill as well. So that was one of it. Now, another advice, I would say, know yourself. I didn't know myself.
You were young. You were
I
just
was
out of
young,
college.
yeah. So, and don't let anybody else define you.
That's very good advice.
That's what I'm trying to impart to well, everyone I meet really, but my daughters as well, as you know, they're
Very impressionable.
in love with fantasy as well too. Like
And
there's so, I mean, it's very heartening that there is so many different you know, properties or storytelling things that they can latch onto and love, and yeah, and then art as well. Like, you know, they're able to just, you know, draw to their heart content, and it makes me kind of sing, because it's a skill that I don't necessarily have, right? And so it's like nice to kind of see and develop, and I'll draw with them as well, and make that be a thing. But yeah, I'm trying to, you know, impart to them that it's going to be a struggle pretty much all the way, and to continue to try, and to push yourself, and to go forward.
And to know that part of the struggle is the struggle.
Yeah.
You know, that's the artist's life. And know you chose it. It's not going to be all roses.
No, it definitely will not be.
But there
and to
will-
roll
there-
with the punches and know that, like, hey, you know,
but there will be high points too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And to latch onto those and enjoy them while you can, and don't necessarily turn them into negatives like we all do. I do that
I
all
know.
the time.
It's
I'm always
hard
like,
with any, like, you can have like 9 really positive, great things said about your work and 1 negative, and that's,
And
the
that's
only
all you
one you think
remember,
about.
right?
Yeah.
You just focus on the negative. And art is so subjective, and it's so personal that you can't. You'll never please everyone. But it's just, you know, you like you were saying, like, know yourself and know your worth, and the feedback you get, you kind of have to also know, like, is this constructive feedback? Or is
Not
this
all
just
feedback
like,
is instructive.
no.
Yeah.
No.
So that's, you know, it's important to be able to parse that out. But I think that probably comes with knowing yourself and knowing your worth. But it's a tough skill. It's a tough skill to learn.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But you know that looking back now, like, that the work that you did it's so iconic still to, like,
Yeah.
the history of this brand that's, you know, 45 years strong, that, like, people still look back on your work as like some of the most iconic pieces that have ever been put out for it.
Who knew?
I mean, but maybe
At the
you
time,
didn't know.
you didn't know. It
Yeah,
held up,
but
you know.
now can you look back on it and
it
be
was
like,
just a job, you know, a paying job. Didn't pay much, but
Yes.
money coming in.
yeah.
So yes,
But you know now, can you look back and be like,
I look-
man,
yeah,
that,
like-
that map is gorgeous. There was nothing wrong with my work.
the map was Gary was my biggest. What's the word? I don't want to say fan because that doesn't work. Supporter.
Mhm.
He was the one who insisted that unicorn be on the DMG, and I consider that my best piece.
Oh, wow.
And that was probably the first thing I brought. It was something I did before. It was one of the first things I brought to Dave Sutherland when I was
As for a part of your portfolio.
as part of my portfolio. And he
Oh,
said,
wow.
I'll take this one and this one and that one.
So did you
Wow.
do all the monsters that are on that cover, or
No, it wasn't a cover.
Okay.
I was not good enough to do covers.
You were told
you were totally
that,
good enough to
but
do covers?
we know the truth.
No, I was never going to get a cover. I'm not good enough.
Well, you're getting lots of covers now.
I am.
So that's good. But yeah, I agree with what Shelley's saying. There's a lot of work that went into these books that, there's a few names that get tossed around, but it's foundational what you were doing. And a lot of people, we've talked to cartographers now. Devin Rue, we had on the podcast a little while ago, and she draws amazing, kind of in your style of trees and mountains that look like trees and mountains and not necessarily a thing. And then there's Anna B. Meyer, who is
Oh,
here.
yeah. She's here.
She's Swedish. She did the Greyhawk map, kind of taking off from your work, making it more of a digital
She
layered thing.
commissioned me in July
Oh, really?
to design a typeface based on the what was it? Greyhawk, one of the Greyhawk titles.
Mm-hmm.
Something Greyhawk. Well, at any rate, I was doing that for her.
Nice.
And so that'll be commercially available, but you'd have to ask Anna because she knows about that stuff, and I don't. I'm just doing the typeface. I
Yeah.
love letters.
Good.
I love letters. If you're doing a map, you have to love letters, I think.
Yeah, because the labeling is just as important as the.
Well, in my, for the aesthetics.
Yeah.
I don't know if gamers like the aesthetics, but I do think that something visually pleasing makes a difference.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Psychologically, it's subconsciously, but I think it does.
I have a map that I recently got from a fantasy world created by Tad Williams that I put on the wall because of the way the typeface is and all of the artistry and the style. Again, probably taking off of your style in some ways. And it's a piece of art. It's not a map that I use even in gaming. It's more of a I remember this place. This map meant something to me. All the stories that are contained within it that I love and appreciate so much, and it becomes this portal to another world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A portal to another world. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and every time you look at it, you get transported in. Yeah.
Yep.
Leaving all the cares of this world behind, hopefully.
Who knows what you're gonna find in that world?
It's true. It's true.
Sometimes.
So yeah, where did you go after TSR? Where did your adventure lead you?
Oh, okay. So I, as part of my wanting to know more about things, I had an opportunity to study in Italy.
Really?
Wow.
Calligraphy in Italy, a Cortona.
Your calligraphy has taken you to some really
Yeah,
impressive places.
and so I was there for 3 months,
Wow.
and met a fellow who was doing his art. He was an art historian working at Indiana University, and I went and visited him. And so we were looking at a show, a senior art show for graphic design, and I was in the gallery and I was looking at it, and I was, offering my opinion and talking to my friend about this. And this man comes behind me and he says, "What do you think of this one?" And I told him, "What do you think of this one?" And I told him what I thought. And he says, "By what authority are you speaking this?" I said, "By the authority of my eye." And he said, "Okay." He happened to be the head of the graphics department. And he said, "I want you to apply to be, for a master, to be part of a graduate program of Indiana University in graphic design." I thought, oh, okay. So I did, and I got it.
Nice.
And it was my ticket out of Lake Geneva. And I thought, oh my God, I get to be with a library. Oh my God, I get people who love knowledge and love, So I was like, this is great. And I didn't do illustration again for 20 years.
Wow.
So you just went all into graphic design.
Graphic design, you can hide behind graphic design.
You say hide.
Yes, hide.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why were you hiding?
Well, that's a question, isn't it?
There were monsters and demons.
When you're told for years and years that you're no good at illustration, you believe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't ever told I was bad at graphic design. So that probably has something to do with it. I'm not sure.
And when you were doing graphic design, you were not putting your name. Were you like you were saying with your illustrations? You made sure to say like Darlene, so everybody knew who you were and that you were a female. So maybe part of the hiding is that nobody knows who did this work.
Right.
There aren't people who are scrolling through the credits of magazines to be like, who's the graphic designer on this?
Oh, there.
Right. Yeah.
I want to critique this.
Yeah.
Tell me
In
who
a
you are.
brochure, that'll never happen.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Or a logo or,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
I mean, it really wasn't until Wired magazine, when that debuted, I remember that's when I first, maybe I'm dating myself a little bit as
No, I know.
But like it made it feel like, okay, people are actually paying attention to fonts and design and Pantone colors. I was the first time I remember hearing about Pantone because they were like, the Wired used this orange that nobody had used in printing before. You probably know more about this than I do, right? Mm-hmm. And it was a revolutionary at the time.
Well, the Pantone color system was about if you're living in New York and you're doing something for someone in L.A., you have to agree that this orange is the one you want. So Pantone 285C. And they go, oh, okay, that's what we want. It was more of a
Right. But there were some colors that were used and some that just weren't.
exactly.
Right?
Yes.
And then Wired was like, no, screw it. We're using the ones that we were told not to use. And that made them bold on the newsstand. People were like, oh, I'd never seen this before. And I think, that's when, at least me, I started paying attention to what graphic design meant and how it could be used in different ways.
Definitely.
Yeah. Because there was that old traditional method of like, oh, you just want it to be readable, but then it can be an art form unto itself.
Well, yeah, they were breaking the boundaries.
Yeah. Did you ever, attempt breaking those boundaries in graphic design as bringing that to life?
Yes, but then my client would go, what?
You're not supposed to use these colors.
What? No.
Just make a brochure.
No, I want.
What's this unicorn doing in here?
You're like, I try to get that unicorn in every single publication.
I feel like you would get along really well with our creative director, Shauna. You could talk about fonts forever. But I remember the exercise of exploring the new font for Dungeons and Dragons that she created.
Yeah.
It's called Tiamat, but it's the font that we use, and it was a very interesting creative exploration of what font is Dungeons and Dragons and how we convey that. And I think she nailed it, because now I can't unsee it, but that's all I see now. Well, Tiamat, damn it, it's got to be Tiamat. But yeah, it's like I don't know. It's a practice that a lot of people don't get to have insight into, but it's fascinating. But it's a talent. I mean, I couldn't pick a font I can't pick a good font for a PowerPoint.
You use
presentation.
Impact for everything.
Calibri.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
Bold.
Yeah.
Sometimes underlined. Yeah, but it's a unique talent.
Well, at Indiana University, I got to know the history and what fonts were. In fact, one of my graduate things was the relationship of calligraphy to type throughout, from Gutenberg on.
Yeah.
And there is a relationship. And so generally, if you want to have a certain feel to something, you would choose a type that expresses that, so that psychologically, the texture of the page, will inform. It'll give that feeling.
Yeah. Yes. It's like that. There is like the psychology behind choosing fonts.
Well, if you're good.
Shauna's good. She also does calligraphy too. You do have a lot in common. She tried to teach me. I wanted to make fancy name cards for a dinner party I was having, and she was trying really hard to teach me. And I'm not artistic in any way. And I was just like this, Shauna. And she was like, "Oh, just give me the list. I'll just go do it. It's too painful to watch you try to do calligraphy." Okay, thanks.
Well, there's a way to teach it too.
Yeah.
Weight, angle, and form.
I think she actually tried. Like, I couldn't hold the pen properly, and everything was deformed. I just
Remember, practice.
yes, practice.
It's like learning how to hold those
Or
chopsticks.
just know who to hire.
Well, what I did when I taught calligraphy is you put two pencils together with a rubber band, so you have a thickness,
Okay.
and then you take that and you make a line, and depending on how you're holding the pen, the line will be thin or thick.
Okay.
Okay.
That already makes
And
more
then
sense.
and then okay, that's weight. Angle is where you have it at a particular angle, and you move it, and you've got thicks and thins automatic.
Oh.
Without having to do anything. It's just what the pen does. And then form is whether it's based on a circle, an oval.
Okay. This is fascinating.
There you go.
I feel like I'm hypnotized. Yes.
And
Calligraphy.
then the trick is to be consistent.
Yeah, I think that's what I
Right.
was
I think that's the
feeling,
hard
too.
part. because I will draw things and I'm like, oh, I can never draw that again. That's pretty much like a one-time situation.
The same thing with comics.
Yeah.
I got to do that exactly.
Yeah, that's
You got to repeat that same
gotta repeat
character,
that.
you know, ad nauseum. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I assume you've transitioned into doing more digital graphic design
Definitely,
and things
definitely.
like that. What was that like? What do you think about the new tools that are
I
available?
love the computer. There are undos.
There are undos.
There are undos.
Control Z.
And I don't have to do things with mixing color. I could do it there. I think the blend tool is my friend.
Yeah. Do you work on a what are those called? The big touch screen type things?
Well, now, you see, I'm a freelance artist. Not a lot of money. I do everything with a mouse.
Interesting. And you'd be able to translate the movement the way you want it to be? That's great.
Using a mouse,
Yeah.
wow.
How has that changed the way you work?
Actually, I use the mouse in the same way I use a pen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about that. I thought, yep,
Same basic movements.
same basic movements, yeah.
Well, that's fascinating.
So I know you taught or teach calligraphy. Did you teach anything else?
Graphic arts.
You do teach
Yeah.
graphic currently, or you did?
No, well, at Indiana University, as part of my package of being there, I had to teach
Oh, okay.
the undergrads.
Do you
Yeah.
like teaching?
Not anymore.
Teaching is
Those
hard
dang
if you're an
millennials.
introvert.
Yeah, but if you know what the parameters are, and they're looking for you to impart X, Y, Z, that's what you do.
Yeah.
And they're mostly looking for, I mean, it's not the same thing. They're wanting to know specific things. They're not looking at you, but they're looking at you.
Yeah.
You may have a point.
Well, you did it. I just know because my husband identifies as an introvert, and he was in the Peace Corps, and he taught English, and he hated every second of it. He liked the idea of the Peace Corps, but he just couldn't stand the idea, like, everybody's looking at me. They want to learn from me. I don't like the attention. Do not want. So,
It can be tough when you have that like open audience of just people who are like, listen
Yes.
to every word that you say. It's kind of like dungeon mastering, but he's fine with that.
yeah, it's true.
Well, so I don't.
Must just be maybe a confidence thing.
Well,
if you
right.
just be confident in your subject matter, and then it's inherently easier.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So he's probably just not as confident in teaching English as he is in running an adventure.
Yeah, and did he know the language of the native speakers
No.
there too? So that's really difficult
No.
to think about, right? Like how do you
I was in
translate
China,
when
in the
you
middle
can't
of
translate?
remote China, teaching.
You can just speak in English. I guess you should learn by doing and showing.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Are you? I mean, a lot of the stuff you were talking about, illustrating, even for the comic book and things like that, where it seems fantastical and
Definitely.
not just. Have you always been a fan of fantasy, or did that come through? I mean, your unicorn was there, so there was always something. That
There
you
was
loved.
always something about that, and I should mention that sometime living in Lake Geneva, this story started coming in.
Hmm.
And I've heard an argument in my head between two characters, two female characters, one with a sword and one with magic. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. And then I started writing down their talking, and then I got other characters, and that eventually became the story of Jasmine, which was published in The Dragon in 1980.
Oh, nice.
And when I left, the story dissipated, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but while I was in it, I did a game about it. So there's the game of Jasmine, this Battle for the Mid-Realm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at any rate, the story I'm telling now is that January 2018, I was going through stuff, and I found a box. And I opened the box. And it was all of these little, what I'm calling snippets of things that never got published. And I thought, look at that. Oh, my God. And I started reading it, and I thought, wow. So I decided to publish them one snippet at a time in my blog, and the blog kind of went to Facebook. And so by the end of 100 days, I had enough interest in it that people wanted me to continue the story.
Wow.
So I got to be on Patreon, and I think I'm Patreon Darlene artist, maybe?
Darlene artist.
Something like that. And I've gotten, people are patronizing me.
I know. It's so
No, that's over. That's no more. No more. That's in the past.
to continue
They are
the
your
story,
patrons.
To continue the story, and I'll eventually put it in a Kindle format.
Oh, that's awesome. So these snippets were just things of hearing that conversation in your head with these characters, and you wrote them down.
And I wrote that down the story, and they never came chronologically. They was just here and there, and so I really don't know where the story came from. I don't, and I'm going, where? And it gets you into deep water, metaphysical waters. Did the story exist before I came in and just happened to catch it?
Oh, that's so
I don't
neat.
know.
Yeah.
But the story of Jasmine coming back in after 40 years or 38 years or however long it's been lugging this box from wherever I am,
yeah.
I thought, well, I'm going to have to give meaning to the fact I did this. Something of me felt that it was important enough to lug around. And
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And you're doing art for Jasmine as well?
yeah. So all of this is starting to come in, and I'm going, what is going on? And then I'm slowly getting the idea that there's something about that story that's pertinent to this space and time.
Yeah. What do you think
So-
that is?
I have no clue.
Jasmine, what is Jasmine? What's her background?
Jasmine, I think it all boils down to female empowerment.
I have a theory about Jasmine.
You are familiar with Jasmine?
Well, I read a little bit about Jasmine on your website,
Ah.
but I have a theory about
Okay,
why
tell me.
she came. Oh, I think Jasmine was like your version of empowering yourself. That you
Oh.
had created this character in your mind as like, or she was she came to you as a way to protect yourself from maybe some of the negativity or the environment that maybe you were currently existing
perhaps.
in.
Yeah.
And I think it reminds me again of Dr. Connell and how like, a lot of people, therapists and psychologists, use D&D with their patients, and especially with kids. And especially there's a Dr. Megan Connell who does these female empowerment classes with D&D. All of the girls that are like
That's a good
12,
idea.
13, 14,
Yeah.
they play D&D. They play as these characters, and it's giving them the confidence to do things in D&D battles or in adventures that they then take into their real life. But it also teaches them how to be supportive of each other and how to be, a good adventuring party, and how to lift each other up and how to support one another.
Excellent.
I feel like Jasmine was like the early version of that she was kind of in your mind to help lift you up and protect you from anything that was going on.
That is cool.
I love
Thank
Jasmine.
you.
I think
Thank
we all
you.
need a Jasmine.
I want a Jasmine.
You get a Jasmine.
Well,
Get your own Jasmine.
Well, I can read about it. That's
Yeah.
what's amazing,
well,
right?
Become a patron.
Yeah.
And
You will.
So that's Darlene Artist on Patreon or something like that.
Something like
Do a
that.
little search. You could find it, I'm sure.
Yeah, patron.com/Darlene Artist, I think.
Excellent.
So it's either a dash Darlene Artist or something like that.
Okay. Very interesting. I can't wait
I'm
for more
not
people to check
obviously a good marketer.
it out. Well, if you need any help, that's why you're here. That's
Yes.
what we can do is get that word out.
Thank you.
Because,
Thank you.
as Shelley was saying, I think a lot of your work was instrumental in where we are now. And I think as many people are aware of that. And so it's really
Coming
important.
from the medieval loving background, I think I was the one who initiated the look.
Yeah.
because I was doing the graphics in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you said, good graphic design, people don't notice it.
No,
they don't
they
see it.
don't. They don't.
And so here we are. We're noticing it and seeing it and being it is awesome. So thank you. And
Noticing
thank
it
you
in
for
the
being
best
here
possible way.
and talking with us. I mean, it's really amazing.
Well, it
Yeah.
wasn't as painful as I thought.
Oh, good. That's an excellent comment.
We try to be as painless
try.
in interviewers as we can.
Yep.
So.
Unlike your sister.
Unlike my sister, she's got pain. She majored in
Major
it.
pain.
She knows how to inflict
Yes.
it all over onto her canvases.
And then your blog also you mentioned. Where can
Yes.
people find your blog?
Oh, DarleneTheArtist.com.
Easy.
I remembered that.
That's an easy one.
That's an easy one.
Well, thank you, Darlene, the artist, for again being here, but again for laying the foundation upon which all of the, not just the graphic design, but a lot of the visualization of Dungeons and Dragons.
I've
came
been
from.
given the nickname Our Lady of Gaming.
You are our
well,
lady of
well
gaming.
earned.
Yes, you are the stained glass window that has been inspiring,
Yes.
many a
paving
medieval.
the way for other female
Thank you so
artists and players.
Awesome.
I hope more power to them.
Yeah.
Yay!
And you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get him, Jasmine.
Excellent. Well, thank you everyone who has been here watching our Dragon Talks this morning. They were amazing, tons of fun. Thank you to Zeb Cook and to Darlene. Tomorrow we are speaking with Margaret Weiss at 9 a.m. and then Stefan Bacorny at 11 a.m. So that should be tons of fun.
Excellent.
We'll see you here on twitch.tv/DND. But there's lots of streamed games that are going to be happening this weekend, including one I believe is being dungeon mastered by Mike Merles and some other fun folks. So check that out on the GaryCon channel. We'll of course be hosting it here on D&D. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, you guys?
I gotta go buy a coloring book.
I gotta go buy a coloring book. Awesome. Thank you, Darlene, and enjoy the rest of GaryCon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.